So in today's video, we're going to talk about litigation, right? One, to litigate through credit bureaus or perhaps even through creditors and maybe even debt collectors who are harassing you and are quite frankly not stopping when it comes to reporting the bad items in your credit reports. So I want to break you down through a step-by-step process in reference to being successful when it comes to litigation and understanding some of the things that you'll need to have at hand or be prepared with when it comes to creating a successful lawsuit against the credit bureaus. Now, one of the things I want to start off by saying, and as a very important disclosure, is that I am not an attorney. I'm not licensed to practice law and give legal advice. So the information that you're receiving is for your context of education. In addition to that, you'll have to do your own research depending on the state that you're in. But hopefully with the context of this education, hopefully with the context of the video for you today, you'll be well prepared in order to go ahead and approach a lawyer with the right information and resources and tools to be able to get a successful outcome when it comes to fixing your credit through the process of litigation. So what exactly do you need? So what you'll need in order to be successful with litigation, you'll have to think about a couple of things. Number one, you'll need to have some reference to exactly what you've done so far. See, a lot of people go into this litigation and thinking that if they start by suing the credit bureaus first, they're going to get an immediate outcome. If they sue the credit bureaus first, that the credit bureaus will cave in and basically answer their demands by simply removing the negative items. And the reality is there's a whole lot more than that. You have to be very specific in reference to what you want to get done with the credit bureaus. You have to fight them in a very strategic manner to create the best type of outcomes possible, but also at the same time, you'll need to have evidence that you've done the work. You'll need to gather that evidence in a very systematic and sequential manner that demonstrates not only to the credit bureaus, but also to the legal parties, in addition to the judge who will be looking at the decision making, that you've done your work, that you've done the legwork that's necessary to have a reasonable lawsuit. So they don't have to get dismissed out of court because it's frivolous and that doesn't have any context and or substance. So you'll need to prepare all that information prior to going ahead and even hiring a lawyer. So that's the second thing you need to understand. So let's analyze what a straight line approach is, right? So from day one, what have you done with your credit reports? So far, what have you done in reference to the attack strategies that you've deployed? Do you have evidence of that? Typically, I tell my customers that, look, you have to send certified mail, because what happens is if you don't send certified mail, the bureaus can simply say they never received your dispute, right? They can just say, hey, you just disputed your name and that's all we got from you. Fact of the matter is, if you don't have certified mail with a return receipt, that green stamp, you'll never get, or have the resources that's necessary to prove evidence that you've done the work, that you've done the legwork, that you've sent the mail, that the credit bureaus have received it. In addition to that, you'd have had notarized documents ready to show that every single attempt of you sending those documents were sent. That you have a notarized stamp in addition to a certified mail showing that here's the information I sent out at this specific date, here's the date, here's the certified number, this is the amount of work that I've done so far, here's the challenge letters that I've sent to the credit bureaus, and everything that I've done to date with a straight line and sequential approach on a timeline basis is here and is presentable. So you'll need all that information. So if you haven't done that, and you haven't sent certified mail, and you haven't taken the approach to do it the proper way, you don't have really much of substance to go ahead and sue the credit bureau, so litigation would be pretty much useless for you at that point. But if you've done all this that I've mentioned, you've sent certified mail, you've notarized documents, you've followed a process and a step-by-step approach to do your very best to get those negative items removed or get the bureau's attention for having them to do a proper and reasonable investigation, then you should be okay and covered until this very point. So let's move on to our next point. So another very common question that I get quite a bit, and these are from the students in my course in addition to individuals here on YouTube who are watching my channel or videos and reaching out to me on a personal level to schedule an appointment, is, hey Ali, do I have to pay a lawyer up front, right? What are some of the options do I have and what can you guide me with? So the idea here is that you have to understand some of the options that you have when looking for a lawyer, right? The FCRA enables you to charge the defending party, right? If you're a plaintiff, means you're the person suing. The other side is reasonable and responsible also to cover the cost of the legal fees, to cover the cost of associated legal costs in addition to any other fees that brought you to the court in the first place. So these sums supposed to be paid, technically speaking, by the defending side, right? So you have that option. You have to know that you can exercise that option if you have to. So a lot of people will say, well, I had to hire a lawyer and I spent so many amount of dollars, thousands of dollars, and we didn't get anywhere. And the reality is you also have to understand the options you have in terms of the type of lawyer you hire, right? There are specific lawyers that are really centered around consumer protection laws. There are lawyers that are in general family law and business law, and there are lawyers who are real estate based and basically financial based, but it's not very specific in reference to the Fair Credit Reporting Act or consumer protection. You have to find an attorney who understands these, who understands that the FCRA is at hand here. The strategy of the lawsuit gears around the Fair Credit Reporting Act and some of the challenges we've had, and that by this default, the attorney will be covered by the defending side if you have a strong enough case. So that's what we're going to talk about in our next point. But understand these options when you're hiring a lawyer so that you know that you have the best solutions in your in your arsenal, and that you'll be able to tackle that challenge of hiring a lawyer properly without issue. So our fifth point here, right, is the idea of, okay, well, what do I need in order to give my lawyer the best resources and tools available to get a successful outcome when it comes to a lawsuit? And we talked about this in terms of preparation, right? Evidence is certified mail return receipts. We talked about making sure that you have a notarized documents all through and through until the timeline, until what you've done so far until date. All these type of things are very important. So you need to have all that prepared in order to have a successful lawsuit in the first place. Now, the additional things you might need is basically evidence of them doing wrong things, right? Evidence of their wrongdoing in the credit reports. How long has it been that they've been doing the wrong? Towards the first time you noticed that, what have you done in terms of communicating with them? You can actually get the creditor involved as well if they fail to reasonably reply to the investigation that the credit reporting agencies were trying to handle on their side. But sometimes what happens is the credit bureaus don't even send the ACDV form the proper way to the creditors, and the creditors just simply do a generic dispute resolution. So that doesn't necessarily give the answers that you're looking for. But if you have all these tools, and if you have all the resources and the communications that you've done so far in reference to your attempt to getting that fixed, that's what you got to bring to your lawyer. You got to be well prepared in reference to drafting a proper lawsuit. You have to have evidence, like I said, of everything that you've done so far. So the more substance that you have, the more evidence that you have of your attempt to getting that fixed, the better off you are. So be sure to have all the right resources and information to be very successful in your lawsuit against the credit reporting agencies if you decide to go that route. So that's something that you absolutely need. And I'm going to finish this video off with a bonus topic, and I think this is an extremely important part, and it makes all the difference in reference to you getting your case entirely thrown out to having a lot of substance and resource and basically the right tools in your arsenal to be able to be successful when it comes to getting that outcome in the court. And that bonus tip is very simple. It's a perspective of you having 100% truthful and accurate report, right? It means that whatever you've done so far, whatever you've stated on your disputes and challenges through the bureaus and your communication timeline, that you are 100% truthful, right? The reason I say this is because a lot of people try to fight the credit bureaus. They look at a negative account and say, this is not mine. This is not mine, and I'm not responsible for this account, and so on and so forth. And the reality is, if you know it's an account that belongs to you, but the fact that they're not reporting it the proper way, that's a rhyme for reason for a lawsuit. So the context of a lawsuit has to be around the fact that they're not reporting properly. The conversation should never go towards your obligation and your responsibility towards that debt. So it depends on how you've challenged it, right? If you challenged it based on that pretense that, hey, look, they're not reporting properly, they're reporting inaccurately, and they're basically injuring my ability to borrow, and they're being frivolous about the fact and all sorts of stuff, then you have some substance. Then you have a pretty strong case to work with, but also at the same time, all your communication with the credit bureaus and or creditors during that timeline, if it was geared around the conversation of, hey, you're not reporting the proper way, then you have some substance there. But let's assume that you're just doing it based on, hey, this is not mine, it doesn't belong to me. You handed off your credit repair to some other agency and they're not very transparent about what they've done so far and all those sorts of stuff. You probably don't have a very solid case to begin with. So you have to have something that has substance for you to stand a chance. You have to have something that is 100% truthful in your efforts, because you don't want to be caught in court with the lawsuit saying this is not yours, but in reality the creditor comes and fights that back and says, no, absolutely not, this is yours and here's proof of this. Now what happens is you lost the case, right? And what happens is you spent money. And first and foremost, I don't think a lawyer, if you're looking for a consumer protection lawyer, will take on these type of cases because they know for a fact there's really nothing against the credit bureaus or the creditors to fight with, right? So you have to have some sort of evidence and truthfulness to the way that you've disputed or challenged up to date. Take that information and resource in your timeline and embed it into the aspect of the lawsuit that challenges the aspect of how they reported, whether it was compliant, whether it was accurate, whether missing information was always there and they never failed to, or they failed to correct it and they never responded on time, which ultimately would lead them to a default judgment because at the end of the day, they had a reasonable timeline to investigate properly. Not to mention that the credit bureaus have to show their side of investigation on what they've done, and the creditors have to demonstrate a reasonable activity of investigating the proper way and what they've done so far to ensure that they were compliant and accurately reporting through and through. So that's how you go ahead and prepare a package to go ahead and file a lawsuit. Once again, I hope you take this information to heart, that you take your own understanding of this context and look in your own home state to understand some of the additional laws that can help you potentially even, strengthen the case or cause to go ahead and litigate the credit bureaus on our creditors. In addition to that, right, talk to your lawyer. Like I said, if you have the case, if you have everything ready, find a contingency-based lawyer who understands that consumer protection-wise, that the fees and all the type of associated costs with court can actually be covered by the defendant, and that is an option that you can exercise because you have the right to do so when it comes to bringing an FCRA case to the courts. So I hope this video helped you guys out, and if it did, don't forget to smash that thumbs up button. It'll help me get the distribution here on YouTube. We're looking to grow our family so we can get more questions answered for you guys. We have a membership platform as well. You can have free 2 live streams a month that I include for those inside members only. Additional videos are also included, including some of the resources that I add to help these members get educated further. And if you have a specific comment in reference to the suits that you can file, or potentially looking for some of the ways to prepare a lawsuit to help you strengthen your case against the credit bureaus, feel free to reach out to me, ali@alitoafter.com, or leave a comment below and let me know what your thoughts are about this video today. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoy. Once again, this is definitely your guide and mentor, Ali After. Catch you guys on the next one. Bye for now.